I so it's a degree, but just say nation. And it is all for liberty. It's just same direction of additions to the agenda. Give members of the public signed up opportunity to speak. We'll limit this portion of the meeting to a total of 30 minutes to enable us to move to our business meeting in a timely manner. It looks like we only have 2 people who signed up to speak tonight, so everyone who signed up will get their full 3 minutes. Looks like our first speaker tonight is Brandon Boyd.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having me. My name is Brandon Boyd. I am from Noblesville. Last time I was here, I read a sexually explicit section from the novel that is currently available for checkout in the teen zone section. I just checked it today, right out here a little earlier. It's still there. I had heard comments of shock and disgust from many of the library board, like library experts in the audience, and it made me realize that unfortunately, many of the people who are experts in this field have not actually taken the time to actually read any of the material that they claim is suitable content for children. And I've heard from the other side that if you don't have time to read the books that your kids check out, then you don't belong at the library. Ironically, if you do actually read those books and check them out, then they attack you for doing exactly that. In the contents of the book that I read here last time, the author fantasized about a 14-year-old girl being sexually active and that she was also into bondage and where she wanted to be tied up in the back of an adult van. It's very disturbing that someone would even imagine such a disgusting scenario, let alone just like write it and then also publish it in a book. Now, it's even more disturbing to me that someone who's wanting to do that also sits on this library board. And someone like that is a danger to our children. And because of this, I'm calling for the immediate removal of Bill Kinley from the library board. Thank you.
Speakers like
my place.
that. I think just for president, we should probably stick to the people who signed up tonight. Would you like to speak tonight?
No.
Those were the only 2 that signed up tonight, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. All right, and I will accept a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Also move.
Okay.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, motion passed. I'll accept a motion to approve claims and warrants for the new discussion. We have it.
Nice.
Second. All right, do you have any comments, questions, or discussion on the claims and warrants? In favor of approval of the claims and warrants, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Right, motion carried. All right, next on our list, we have an administrator's executive consent recommendation for the interim director structure. I'll accept a motion for approval of the recommendation so we can move on to discuss it.
I move that we accept the recommendation offered by a director regarding interim director, that is to appoint deputy directors Melissa Loisel and Molly Mrzowski as co-interim library directors with equal authority to act as Hamilton East Public Library Director and CEO in all matters. And then he also, as part of that, in consideration of that responsibility to receive additional biweekly compensation amount of $700.27 until a new director is hired.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on this topic? So I guess I'll ask Melissa and Molly, since we have two of you, what is the, if we approve this structure, what is the best way for myself and other board members to coordinate with you time? Shall we just email and copy you both, or will one of you be the point of contact?
I will be the point of contact for the board.
All right.
I think you all have my email address.
I'll keep it simple.
Okay, perfect.
And then Melissa will make sure to loop on and that's perfect.
Terrific.
So-
Thank you.
My understanding, it sounds like Melissa, you're going to be more of kind of the external board, that sort of stuff, and Molly, you're more internal operations. Cool. Okay.
Comments on the proposal? All right, I will now move to a vote. All in favor of approving the proposal, say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you for agreeing to fill in.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the next item, which is the 2024 one-time compensation adjustment. We'll accept a motion for approval of the recommendation, so we move on to discussion.
So moved.
All right, you got any discussion on the subject. Move for a vote. All in favor of the compensation adjustment, say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? Motion carried. All right, now I'll move on to the administrator's executive recommendation for a security consultant. We'll accept a motion for approval of the recommendation so that we can have a discussion. Second, right, do you have any questions or discussion on the recommendation for the security consultant?
Edra, I appreciate it. I think it was in the director's report. You referenced that funding for this would be coming from appropriated rainy day funds. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the library has a couple of different kinds of reserve funds, which are just funds that we have in reserve that are not part of the regular operating budget. The rainy day fund is our largest set of funds, and it can be used for any purpose that the operating fund can be used for. And for something like this that we do very infrequently, a lot of times it makes more sense rather than folding that into our annual operating budget, which is like our year-to-year recurring expenses, to take those funds out of reserve, like you would at home with your savings account with a. So that's we have appropriated funds specifically for this in that fund for 2024. We've also appropriated additional funds, not just for this, but for the actual security upgrades and redoing the doors. There's quite a bit appropriated in there because our estimate for that is, I don't even know, anywhere from 250,000 and up for those things, because we're talking about upgrading the doors, perhaps figuring out cameras, that kind of thing. That's why we have an expert.
So I noticed it had some training, staff training involved in this proposal, and then there would be additional training. So what part of the staff training does this proposal cover?
So this proposal covers 3 phases of work, and the 3rd phase includes policy development and staff training. And that's part of what we would be working with the firm to determine, like, what are the needs that we have and what kind of training would be recommended. I do not believe that this firm would necessarily be doing all of the training, but they would be evaluating what our training needs are and helping us to secure people to do that. And it might be goods that would do it, but it might not be. Okay. So it's more of this expert helping us identify what our needs are and then helping us seek the proper vendors to do that.
Okay. I appreciate taking a step back from other conversations we had in the past about the block cameras and things like that.
just taking a comprehensive look at security, and it looks like this is what is going to happen. So thank you for pursuing that.
We feel very, very good about this proposal, and we had conversations with a couple of different folks, and this one really felt like it got what we're after, and is going to take the time to do it. It has great expertise. I included the background in the packet, so.
Those comments I got, that you included this, it was his resume or information about him. He seemed obviously very qualified, and I guess I like receiving advice from experts and stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's expensive, but I guess I can see it's backed up by someone who looks like he's been in this field for a very long time in some important positions. So I guess that's it. Recommendations? Question? Right, I'll move for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Oops.
Thank you.
Now move on to the next agenda item, which is the 2024 through 2028 strategic plan. So last month we discussed, and there's a document in the packet of many hours of community engagement, discussion, and consideration of priorities for the next several years. That was reviewed by the Strategic Planning Committee, the full report and the strategic recommendation. I think that looks like the report and the recommendation flows pretty naturally from what we found out through the strategic planning. So I'll accept a motion for approval of 2024 and 2028 strategic plan so we can discuss further.
So moved.
Second.
Right. Do you have any further discussion on this topic?
As far as who on staff, is Amber still taking the lead on the strategic plan?
So Amber was the point person for the strategic planning process. And then as far as like going from there, this is really something that lives in Melissa's wheelhouse as our chief impact officer. But each one of the members of our leadership team are tasked with taking these broad strategic priorities and really building a plan for their element of library services to pursue this. So the leadership team as a whole is working on tailoring objectives that feed into this. And then we will, all of it, the leadership team as a whole does look at that and track that progress. We're also working, Garrett's also building us a dashboard for different kinds of metrics that we can use that's data that we can make sure we collect so we can get some baselines going forward. And then really as we progress through the plan, see some indicators that we're making some progress.
Yeah, so I guess we don't need to decide this right now, but we should probably think, I guess those of us on the strategic planning committee, I guess whether we want to review this further in the future, have like a check-in or maybe next year or something.
Yeah, I think that would be part of, that's part of typically what we would do is report back to the full board on progress. And I think it's a good idea maybe to have some of that be committee work and then have the committee report back to the board maybe.
All right, sounds good. So
Thank you, Melissa.
Sure.
As the committee and the board can support these priorities, please involve us.
all right, so I will I'll take a vote. All strategic plan. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, so I'll now move on to the next item, which is election of the board vice president. So when Tiffany left us, see if anyone has a nomination for board vice president.
We nominate Michelle Payne as our board vice president. She has served in that position previously. And is actually our longest standing member.
Second.
All right, we have any discussion. All right, no discussion. I'll move to a vote. All in favor of electing Michelle Payne as the board vice president? Aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? Motion carries.
She needed a secretary then.
All right, yeah, all right, so we might as well go with that now. I'll move to amend the agenda that we now discuss the election of a board secretary. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, of amending the agenda to discuss the election of the secretary. Yes. All right. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. I guess to start discussion, I'll put it out. Do we have any nominations for a board secretary?
I made the motion for vice president knowing that if elected. So I do have a follow-up plan. My nominations for Susan Crandall to be secretary. In her brief stints on other meetings and impressed with her vigor and rigor and interest. In our meeting last Monday, you had obviously done homework, and as one of the newer ones, only one new word. That was impressive. And
All right, any discussion on election of Susan as the board secretary. I'll say they would like to have Susan, and I think she'd be a great secretary, so.
Thank you.
All right, for electing Susan as the board secretary. Aye. Any opposed? Carries. All right, so next, we go to the next agenda item, which is the establishment of a board standing policy committee. I did the committee assignments recently and reached out to everyone. Kim, I think you signed on after that. But
Yeah.
you see, we previously discussed making a policy committee as an ad hoc committee. I made assignments to that. I think it would make sense to make it a standing committee to kind of do some of the hard work of reviewing some of our policies. And then I know a lot of times the board has a concept or an idea, and it takes actually a group to sit down and work through it and actually draft something or refine the idea. So I think it makes sense to have this as a standing committee. So when those needs arise, we have it. So I would recommend make it a standing committee. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the policy committee as a standing committee. So we'll move to discussion. All right, any discussion or thoughts on the policy committee? All right, I'll take a vote. All in favor of adopting, actually, we need to amend the bylaws for that, or?
The bylaws just say that new standing committees can be added with a majority vote of the board. So we can probably just add that as a note without amending the bylaws. Just include that as a,
Okay.
like on this date, this was added. It's not clear. But I think if we just memorialize in there that it happened, it maybe doesn't need to be part of the takes 2 meetings to approve bylaws. So
Okay, I think
we'll note it on the form.
I think that works for me then. Just want to make sure we do it correctly. So all in favor of establishing a standing policy committee? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, now to our most important item on the agenda, which is our search for a director. Well, start discussions on our director search. The board reached a consensus to utilize the services of a professional search firm to act as a committee as a whole for this process. And we asked our director and director of HR, John Chomika, to reach out and see if he could and update us on the next steps and what information they might need from us. So
Should I just go through the microphone?
yeah, please.
Okay. So when we met, I believe it was a week ago Tuesday, we narrowed it down to probably 2 search firms, which were Bradbury Miller and Organizational Architecture. Both of them assured me they will have proposals next week for the board. And these proposals will fully outline the entire process. So I guess my question is, as far as the process going forward and how involved you want me to be in the process, did you want me to follow the chain and sending that information through Melissa to the board or directly to you, Craig?
I guess please get it full board.
Okay, I can do that.
I would recommend working directly with John as the board on this rather than going through our interim. Well, what if they want to apply?
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. So yeah, you could.
Yeah, so both firms assured me they'd have it before the end of the year, so I can get that up to you.
Okay, so what are we expecting from them?
It's a full proposal, basically, the whole process, what is expected of the board, what they will provide, and obviously the amount of money that will cost. And typically both of them said roughly around 4 months from starting the search to placement as an average.
Okay, and before reaching out to them and getting these proposals, do you need any information from the board we need to discuss, or do we just need to?
I'll find out once I hear back from them if they need anything from us.
Okay.
But they're very, very well researched. They researched our library and they know what they're looking for. They have experience and they have a track record in Central Indiana.
So next we have consensus to have John move forward with that. All right. So I guess we'll stay tuned to hear from you, and then I suppose we need to, we want to get this moving, which I know we do. We might try to set up another special meeting.
Sure.
Tie that up if necessary. If it comes ahead of our board members, because I know we're probably all eager to fill that first one.
I understand we're eager, but I also don't want to have the board receive information as a board in violation of open door.
Right, and both firms are aware of that. So we'll make sure we follow the correct process.
So
As long as you don't discuss it, you can receive the information and then meet to decide where to go from there.
Yeah, so how I imagine things going, getting the information, and then if appropriate, go ahead and have a special meeting, or just go ahead and discuss it at our next regular meeting if that's not too far off. Discussion on our director search. All right, then I'll move on to our next agenda item. Thank you so much, John. Legal services. I went ahead and put this on the agenda. I know Micah at our last meeting asked them to reach out to, it was Massachusetts, Jeter, and Carson to see if they had a proposal or any information for us. Do we have an update on that?
No, I totally forgot to do it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, that works out, because I was also going to ask if I spoke with her recently, and she expressed openness to submitting a proposal if the board requested one from her. I know especially and gave great legal services, and with especially with Edgar leaving, I think we're losing a lot of institutional knowledge, and getting a proposal from Anna, potentially having her back could be a great thing. So do we have a consensus to at least solicit a proposal from her to see if she'd A, be willing to do it, and B, what that would look like?
is that in addition to MJC?
So yeah, I think we'll go forward. We'll get one from MJC, and then we'll get from Ann too, and then we can discuss it further when we have both.
Yeah.
All right. And I'll note that we have a consensus to solicit proposals from MJC and Poindexter for further discussion. All right, I'll now move on to our next agenda item, a project update from Kevin McCurdy.
Needed time.
Oh,
Well, check the site. Still there. And temporary walls down. This way. So I'm jumping ahead on the agenda, but so starting with Fishers. I think everybody got the update as part of the board pack. Okay, so at Fishers, again, we're, like we talked last month, rolling towards the end of that first phase project, which included primarily the exterior and the addition. So again, I'd say we are approaching substantial completion. There's still going to be the punch list, which is actively being worked on as part of that closeout process. There is the firewall that we're working on. That's probably the last big challenge, I would say. We did just have a meeting Tuesday on that, which is noted in here. We don't have a final resolution yet. I think we looked at what are some of the options to move forward, but we had some research to do on our end to kind of help find a resolution to that. We'll bring that back to the grounds committee with some options based on what we all saw and talked about at that meeting on Tuesday. So that should help bring the last big open item on phase one to closure. Phase two is also shortly behind that here. Right in January or so, both of those will, the phase one and phase two, which phase two is mostly that interior work, should be approaching completion at Fishers. So everybody will have the library back without, the headaches of work going on. Here, there's a little bit more to do. So phase one, the project was the exterior again with the addition to the front here and the modification of the entrance. List is still continuing to be worked on. A lot of that's finally getting closed out. Doesn't really or patron experience. That was like the enclosure on the mechanical yard out here, things like that are getting buttoned up finally. So that's nearing completion on phase 2. I think it's been talked about for a little bit now that some of the things with the Sullivan group and the coordination there to get the interactives on that second floor took a little longer than anticipated, some of that buttoned up. So at this point, they're looking to be on site in February to get that work completed. So I'd be looking at more like a March timeline that things are getting kind of that buttoned up and we're talking about punch lists, things like that. After that, then the work will be occurring at the first floor level, moving, because that will button up really the offices upstairs, the administrative space and the public space with the meeting rooms and Crossroads Discovery Center space. Got it finally. I have it by the end. Which will be a lot of finish in kind of the common areas and then a little heavier renovation in the team and some staff areas. There has been conversation about doing more of a shutdown of a portion of the library. So that's not like the full building closing. Children's would remain open and the front doors to be able to get down to children's and stuff, kind of those 2 ways in and out. But in order to speed up the process of getting that work done, since Fisher's would be completed, that would allow a little bit more closure here to get teams and first floor done without a lot of moving stuff around has been part of the conversation. What that will do is pull back that completion date that it's looking like. Gosh, I'm drawing a total blank right now. I want to say November, but that still feels wrong. I thought we were looking at pulling back a couple more months. Because if you recall, at one point that was pushing all the way into 2025. With all of the additional work that had been added. So it wasn't just willy-nilly, the schedule was expanding. It's that we put additional work on their plate because of the funds that were available because we weren't using them from phase 1. So taking a breath. Are there any questions about any of that?
So I guess when you hear back, we have more information on the firewall issue.
Yes.
I guess you'll get in touch with Melissa if you do one and you can get a pull out to the grounds committee. All right, perfect.
And right now the process is we're just copying both Melissa and Molly as kind of co-interim directors and then allow them to get that to the facilities committee. We're anticipating having an answer to that next week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, we would have some kind of a position on that, some options. So.
Discussion about the construction or the update.
I would just like to say that I was in Fishers today and it's really cool with the wall down on the south side. It's glass, like the building is even it's very cool.
So you'll see that.
And I was actually serendipitously glad when I went to the wrong location. I actually saw too the rain and like team glass cone there now has the color change to it, which it was always supposed to have and didn't for a while, it seemed like. So now it's kind of doing what always intended to do.
Sure,
So
just checking on the project.
that's what I said. It was want to get a handle on it before I got here. So
So much, Kevin.
well, happy holidays and New Year. I'll see you all again. And thank you very much.
Happy New Year. Oh, item on our agenda is the director's report.
Probably the most exciting thing for many of our staff on the director's report is that we have a new CFO who will be starting at the library, probably for August. Exciting news. Kim Leffler has accepted our offer and she'll be starting January 8th, which is same day that we're moving out of the admin hallway into temporary offices. So we will welcome her to her temporary office. We're pretty excited about that. Questions about anything? It was another great month at the library, a lot going on. Staff are working hard like they always do.
Pedro, I just want to make sure Michelle Shelton was such a great benefit for me these 3 months covering, doing the audits and signing off on everything. And it's an experience I wish on any of you. And I know Craig did it for a couple months before I think Laura was hired, but going through the receipts and the invoices and comparing against the warrants, going through that APB every stick in line is something that actually provides a lot of perspective as you sit here. We unanimously approved the accounts payable vouchers, but I'm very grateful for the work that Michelle's been doing without CFO.
Yeah, Michelle Shelton is our bookkeeper, and she has been an absolute rock, along with Jackie Humphrey, who is our administrative assistant. They have together kept things running and kept the bills moving, and millions of questions from staff. As anyone who works in any kind of business who's on a calendar year cycle, year end is always challenging. As you wrap up one budget year and open a new one, and they've just done a really great job of keeping all of those records pristine, and making sure that we are in good shape and our new CFO walks into a well-oiled machine. So yes, I appreciate that. And I know Michelle appreciates it too.
Thanks for Andre for filling in. I know I was invited. It was interesting, but also a bit horrifying, especially the first time you do it.
Recently, we
doesn't
test
stop.
you in this role.
Oh yeah, it doesn't stop at the first time. Second and third are also fun.
Fine. Any further discussion or questions on the director's report?
I would like to just say at my last meeting, at my 144th meeting, I'd like to say thank you to all of the staff. This has been a really wonderful group of people to work with. They are incredibly talented, incredibly passionate, incredibly skilled, and spend every day focusing on giving the absolute best service to everyone who walks through the doors of this library. And I could not ask for a stronger team, for a better team. You guys are in good hands with Molly and Melissa, both of whom are very much tied to our two communities. And I look forward to seeing what happens over the next 12 years here at HEPL when you get a new leader and in the interim. So thank you for everything you guys have done. Thank you for over the years, the board has approved so many wonderful things. I mean, we've got Ignite Studio, we have the Crosswords Discovery Center, we have a wonderful new children's space here. We have these beautiful new entrances. We have just so many wonderful things. And I have appreciated my experience here and will miss the library and the community quite a lot. So thank you. And I wish you guys all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much, Andrew, for all of your leadership and your service to the library and to Noblesville and Fishers. Thank you. We've got some big shoes to fill.
Literally, I wear a size 11.
For our next agenda item, other old or new business. Our previous meeting, the board approved adjustments to collection development policy. Those revisions were made to the actual collection development document, circulated to the board for ratification. So I guess just to get the discussion going on that item. Go ahead and make a motion to ratify the updated collection development policy version that was circulated to the
I will so move.
Second.
discussion on this subject. And all in favor of ratifying the circulated version of the collection development policy? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, looks like we actually made very good time at this meeting. So I'll move to adjourn.